I start this session with a question. So, who of you want to be 64% more self-confident? Maybe who wants to be 67% more productive? And who of us do not want to be 71% happier? So we think if we want these things that we need to go out and buy something, we need to maybe get another qualification, we need to maybe start a business or grow our businesses. But the secret to all of these things that I just mentioned is really very simple. And the answer to that question is that it all comes down to self-care. So if we want to love ourselves more, we can really start by doing a lot more self-care. So in my books, self-care equals self-love. So if we go back to the formula that I always talk about, is that if I want more love in my life, then I need to go and practice. I need to go out into the world and do a whole lot of things. And that's where the self-care comes in. So if I do practice self-care, it's really an act of self-love. But before I get to the love, I need to make sure that my thinking and my beliefs are in line with self-love. So if I keep telling myself the whole day that I'm doing things wrong, there you go, there you do it again, you can't do anything right, then obviously there's not going to be a lot of feelings of self-love. So we first start off with what we're thinking, then we create that love, and then we actually go and take care of ourselves. A lot of people ask me, that how do I love myself more? And this is exactly what we need to go and do. If I want to love myself more, I need to go look at what I'm thinking or believing about myself or other people if I find them being unlovable. So my thinking first, then I feel love, then I actually go and take all of those self-care actions. So what are those self-care actions? And there's 5 ways that we can take care of ourselves. Just before we dive into the 5 ways, let's just define care. So care really just means that we're paying special attention, that we apply consideration, and that we attach importance to something. So that is really paying attention to these 5 things that I want to share with you. So let me start at the top, go through them, and then I'll just quickly discuss each point. So the first way I can practice self-care is mentally. The second one is emotionally, then it's really my physical body, then it's spiritually, and then lastly, it is socially. So if I talk about mental self-care, it really comes down to a lot what we're doing in the show is like that growth and development and that learning. Francois spends a lot of time on educating and putting knowledge out there in terms of the industry you're working in, but also mindset. If I take as an example, last week, the growth versus fixed mindset. So in order for us to grow, we always need to set goals. We need to challenge ourselves because that's the stuff that makes us grow. And that's the mental part of it. Now, the second part of it is emotionally. So that is referring to our feelings. Dr. Susan Davids always says that our emotions are signposts. They're not necessarily directives. So if I, for instance, feel anger or frustration, it doesn't mean that I can go and yell at someone. It means that I can just pay attention, and exactly what the word means is pay special attention to that emotion. So if I'm annoyed, if I'm frustrated, angry all the time, then without judging myself, just going and asking, what's behind this? And just get curious about it. So the third one is physical. So that is the part where we take care of our physical bodies. That is through exercising, through healthy eating, through sleeping the right amount of hours per night. It's about, managing stress, which also comes back to emotional health. Then the next one is our spiritual health or our spiritual self-care. And that really is just our connection with our true self and maybe our connection with our our higher purpose or our creator. So you can do that in a lot of ways. It can be through prayer, meditation. It can be through nature or walks. Whatever you find works in that area. And then lastly, it's that social care. We are not an island. We are surrounded by people all the time. And how are we relating to those people? How are we listening? How are we communicating? Or how are we building those relationships? So bringing all of that back, self-care is an act of self-love. And if I find myself having trouble in my life, this is always a good starting point. I actually had a case this week where I spoke to my coach, and where I thought I had a business problem, it actually turned out that it was a me problem, and it could be solved actually very quickly. So coming back to self-love, if I want self-love in my life, I need to think and believe thoughts about myself that is loving. That's going to create the love, and then I'll go and actually do the self-care.